Hello and welcome to this week's Future Talk with Liz Buchanan. I'm a digital communications expert and I'm joined by Shara Evans, who's one of the world's top female futurists as designated by Forbes earlier this year. She was out of 50, but she's one of the world's top technology futurists. And we're talking about everything of life before, during and after, particularly heading into the future after coronavirus. So welcome, Shara.
Hi, Liz. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me again about life in and after Corona.
Yeah.
Today, I'd like to talk about something that is going to impact all of us, and it's happening all around the world, but I'll just go really specific to things that are happening in Australia. And it's the collapse of retail shopping. And it's not something that was brought on just by Corona, but what has happened is Corona has accelerated this whole trend. So over the last few years, I've been noticing that lots and lots of small businesses, retail shops have been closing and never ever reopening again. I'm lucky that I live in an area that is walking distance to a shopping strip and a shopping center and so on. So I constantly go strolling past, these different businesses, and I get to know the owners because I'm in the neighborhood and I enjoy chatting with people. And it's really distressing when I see these businesses shut down and never reopen. So that trend has been happening. But because of COVID-19 and the social distancing and the lockdowns where a lot of retail businesses were shut down, what I'm starting to see is that stores are, first of all, not reopening, the ones that were still going. And in the larger shopping centers, I've also been hearing from some of the shop owners that I have befriended and talked to that a number of the smaller tenants are shortly going to be closing shop and never reopening. And gosh, that's so distressing. There's one instance, I was talking to someone a few days ago where a salon that has been in the shopping center for about 20 years is going to close because the rent is just so high and the traffic is so low that they just cannot afford to keep going. And I understand that there's another smaller shop that in the same center will be closing very shortly. The person I was speaking to, they're going to keep going for a while, but the rents are so high and the traffic is so low. Yeah. That the equation just doesn't make sense.
No, and I think I spoke to a few retail agencies, or they manage the shopping centres, and they don't want to reduce the rent. They'd prefer to have no one in there and still have it priced at a particular rent so that it doesn't reduce the overall cost and value of the actual centre. So that's the issue, is do they actually have someone in there and it makes it look good, or do they reduce the value of it? And I think we're going to see that a lot in the future. We've got Tip-Top bakeries coming under liquidation recently. We've got, Virgin had issues. We've got so many industries, and it's not just retail, but I think retail will be really impacted because of coronavirus.
Oh, it's definitely one of the casualties. And even for the shops that are still there, while we're in the midst of a pandemic, and frankly, here in Australia, we're actually quite lucky that the pandemic has been mild compared to many other parts of the world. My family's in the US, so I see what's happening there, and it's pretty devastating. But if you think about us women, and trying on clothes, we generally like to try stuff on and see how it fits. And there are technologies like augmented reality where you can do a virtual fit, but it's actually not the same thing as trying something on and seeing how it feels. Does it feel comfortable? Do you like the way the fabric stretches on your body? Does it make you itch? Does it flatter your figure? And all of that might disappear. And I think part of the issue with clothing in particular will be, will people want to try on clothes not knowing who might have tried it on just before them and potentially catch a fatal virus because of trying on, you know, something that's pretty. And I don't see an end to this dilemma between the commercial real estate centers needing to keep up the value of their asset, which they paid a lot of money for, but also the tenants who are struggling to pay the rent because there's not enough traffic. So we may end up seeing shopping centers with a lot of closed stores. And of course, that's going to reduce the overall traffic. And sooner or later, even if you're a commercial owner, where does it balance out? You know, will it start to make sense to reduce the rent and actually have a center that has fully populated stores? Or will the incentive still be there to try to keep the value up by saying, well, we charge X rent? And I'm not sure what the answer is going to be, but I think for most of us who buy goods at shopping centers or along a shopping strip, life is going to change.
Yeah, and it is particularly, it's about the experience, and I think we're going to lose that face-to-face communication and face-to-face contact in retail. It's going to impact our lives, really. It's quite devastating, and augmented reality and technology, as much as we love it, it's not the same.
No, and for me in particular, because I live within walking distance of a shopping center, you know, part of the experience that I have in doing my grocery shopping or doing errands is actually having a chat with the store owners or the people who are working there. And it's not just going in and out to buy a particular good, but it's also that human communication.
Yeah. And you think of pension, and if you think of pensioners or, you know, older, the elderly, that's their socialization, to go to the shops and go to the do the supermarket, go to the cafe. It's their socialization for the week. What's going to happen there? That we're going to get a lot of lonely people. That is going to be impacting a lot of lives.
And look, it's a big problem in that respect, but it's also a big problem for small businesses, because there are a lot of family-owned businesses where it's not just one person that's impacted if they have to shut down a shop. It's a family business, so everybody in the family suddenly has no income and they're not likely to open up a shop somewhere else. And it's also all of the employees. And you know, it's a ripple effect, and I don't see this coming to a good conclusion anywhere in the near future.
So it's quite scary of what's actually going to happen logistics, but also what's going to happen to all these businesses and employees, employers everywhere around the world.
And how are we going to, you know, put them back in employment when they've been literally working in their own businesses for decades, and suddenly they're out of work, and it's not really through any fault of their own, but their business has been destroyed and now they have to reinvent. So watch this space. Retail is definitely changing.
Yep, beautiful. Well, thank you for joining me for Future Chat, Future Talk this week, and I'll see you next time for what's happening before, during, and after coronavirus. Thanks, Shara.
Liz. Thanks, everybody. Bye for now.